It was one of the biggest police scandals in American history. Not a single bad cop, not a single mistake, but a culture of corruption that festered inside one Los Angeles police division for years. For decades, the LAPD had projected an image of toughness, an agency that took on gangs, drugs, and violence with unrelenting force. But behind that image, in the heart of the Rampart division, something darker was happening, something that would shatter public trust and force the department into a complete overhaul. This is the real story of the Rampart scandal, how an elite anti-gang unit became a criminal enterprise, how more than 100 convictions were overturned, and how it nearly brought down one of the largest police departments in the country. By the mid-1990s, Los Angeles was still recovering from the Rodney King beating and the 1992 riots. Public trust in law enforcement was fragile, and the city's gang problem was escalating fast. To regain control, the LAPD created special units to hit the streets hard. Tactical, aggressive, and results-driven. One of those units was called CRASH, short for Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums. At first, CRASH was praised. The Rampart Division, which oversaw Pico Union, Westlake, and Echo Park, neighborhoods plagued by gang violence, began reporting record arrests and weapon seizures. To city leaders, it looked like progress, but inside the Rampart CRASH office, officers were bending the law they swore to uphold. In March 1998, it all began to unravel. Officer Rafael Perez, a rising star in the division, was caught stealing 6 pounds of cocaine from the LAPD evidence room. He checked it out under a fake name, claiming it was for an upcoming drug trial, and replaced the real cocaine with bisquick. When investigators closed in, Perez denied it all, but facing a potential life sentence, he made a deal and decided to talk. What he confessed to would send shockwaves through Los Angeles. Perez described an entire unit gone rogue. He and several other CRASH officers, he said, had beaten suspects, framed innocent people, lied in court, stolen drugs and money, and planted evidence, all while being praised for their results. They falsified police reports, covered up shootings, and carried illegal drop guns to stage crime scenes when things went wrong. Inside Rampart, the officers acted like a gang of their own, even getting matching tattoos of a skull and a cowboy hat to symbolize the team. And there was one rule: never turn on another officer. For years, nobody did. Then Perez admitted something worse. In 1996, he and his partner, Officer Nino Durden, had shot a 19-year-old named Javier Ovando, claiming Ovando ambushed them with a gun. It was a lie. Ovando was unarmed, shot in the chest and head, and left paralyzed. Perez and Durden planted a gun next to him, fabricated reports, and testified in court. Ovando was sentenced to 23 years in prison for assaulting officers, a crime that never happened. When Perez finally told the truth, the system began to crumble. The district attorney's office reopened dozens of old cases. Judges began overturning convictions tied to Rampart officers. Over the next 2 years, more than 100 criminal convictions were thrown out. Dozens of officers were investigated, and at least 58 were brought before disciplinary boards. Of those, 24 were found guilty of misconduct, 12 were suspended, 7 forced to resign or retire, and 5 were fired. The scandal cost Los Angeles over $125 million in settlements, including $15 million awarded to Javier Ovando, one of the largest police misconduct payouts in U.S. history. For many, Rampart wasn't just a case of a few bad cops. It exposed something deeper, a culture that rewarded aggressive policing without asking questions, and punished anyone who tried to speak out. By 2001, federal authorities stepped in. The U.S. Department of Justice imposed a consent decree on the Los Angeles Police Department, forcing it to accept federal oversight and reform from the ground up. The decree lasted 12 years, finally ending in 2013 after the department demonstrated compliance. Under the decree, the LAPD had to track every use of force, implement early warning systems for officer misconduct, and improve community accountability. It was one of the most sweeping police reforms in U.S. history. Inside the department, the fallout was immense. Police Chief Bernard Parks faced harsh criticism for failing to act sooner, and by 2002, He was replaced by William Bratton, who came from New York with a mandate to rebuild trust. Perez was sentenced to 5 years in prison for his crimes. He was released in 2001, arrested again in 2006 under an alias, and quietly faded from public life. His partner, Nino Durden, also served time. But even after the trials ended, questions remained. How deep did the corruption go? How many innocent people were still sitting in prison because of false reports and perjured testimony? And how could a department that claimed to serve and protect allow this to happen right under its nose? Former officers later described a system built on fear and silence, where success was measured by arrest numbers, not justice. In that kind of environment, bending the rules became normal, and brutality became part of the job. Perez once told investigators, "We didn't think we were bad cops. We thought we were the best cops today." The old Rampart station on West Temple Street is gone, replaced by a new building on West 6th Street. But for those who lived through it, the victims, the officers, and the city itself, the memories remain. The Rampart scandal changed everything: how Los Angeles policed its streets, how it supervised its officers, and how the public viewed those who wore the badge. It forced the city to confront a painful truth: that corruption doesn't always come from the shadows. Sometimes it wears a uniform,